Hi, this is Bill Koenig for Straight Circle Martial Arts, and this is 10 problems we have with modern karate. "25 years ago, I started in karate, and I've done karate different styles, for the last 25 years. I have a 5th degree black belt in North American Goju. There's a lot of elements I like in karate, and there are a lot of things that I've learned from karate, and I've gone to a lot of really good instructors. But unfortunately, they are not the majority. They are in the minority. Most karate that's taught in this country is strip mall. And the bottom line is the people teaching it can do fancy kicks and jumps and teach kids, but they don't understand it. And it's given karate a horrible reputation. You hear this all the time. Karate's good for women and children, but that's not where you go to fight. You go to MMA to fight. You know what? That criticism's legitimate. And here's 10 reasons why it's legitimate. It's too stiff. For some reason in this country, we like to grip and grab and tense everything and hold position like a crazy person. Now, on some level, if you understood what that breathing was for and that tension, there are certain exercises where they're trying to raise your blood pressure or teach you certain things. That's fine, but that's not how you fight. It was never meant to go intense and stay there like a lunatic. You do that, you're going to get killed. The bottom line is as you get better, it has to relax. When I learned original stance work, I was taught to grip the floor, hold tension, and but try and fight like that. Tense your legs like that and run and see what it does. Fighting's like running. You got to be able to move. So what happens is over time is you have to learn, like you take a stance like this and you don't grip the floor anymore. You learn to sink. You learn to move in the position. You learn to shift your weight. You learn to step with it. You have to take that very hard style that you did and everything that you've done that used to be tense, you have to learn to relax it and learn only to tense at that one last instant where you need it. It is not a continual tension all the way through. If you fight with that tension, you're doomed against someone who's fluid. And on top of it, it's not healthy for you. So go back into your forms and all your work and try and find how you can relax into the work and not tense into the work. Number 9, too big. How many instructors do you know that still do this? Right? They learned it really big, and they still do it really big. You can't fight like that, especially when you face people who are in tight or grapplers or people who, your ability over years, you have to learn how to hit short. You have to learn how to work short. You have to take these forms and your work that were really, really big, and you have to learn to shrink them. And shrink them and shrink them. Sometimes you're only in a space like this. You don't have all this distance to make these big, long moves. I know so many guys in karate you can't punch well because they try to hit everyone out here, but the reality is when you hit people, a lot of times they're right there and they're all crumpled up. So what you have to do is you have to take these things as a beginner and over years and years and years and years and shrink them down until they're usable. Number 8 is alignment. Because karate often is taught with such big flippy hip motions, with this big yo type thing, right? With big twists, what happens is we often get ahead of the punch. So if I go like this, I throw this big hip and I throw this body, if I have time, say the guy's way out here, and I can get that alignment, I can get my hip back in line with my hand. But if I do this, and I throw it big and the guy moves in, and I move my hips and then my hands land. Do you see how I'm kind of behind myself? I see that a lot in martial arts, especially karate, is their techniques are so big when they go to land, their body is not in a proper alignment because they're fighting people who are closer than they anticipate. Everyone in their forms anticipates that someone's way out here, but the reality is most people are closer. And if you're making big motions, it screws your alignment up. As you practice, it's so critically important that you learn that everything has to hit together as a unit. Everything has to hit at the same time. And that requires a lot of practice with live bodies at a short distance. It also requires a lot of studying on things like bags or walls or whatever, where you just, instead of just screaming and throwing things as hard as you can, maybe you should slow down and feel how the body aligns, right? If you watch like a Tai Chi practitioner and you watch their motions, their body always aligns together. It's always in alignment. When you throw big, angry, flippy things, often they're not. So watch your alignment. Try and get yourself centered back under yourself. Number 7, lack of footwork. I can't tell you how many times I watch people, because they learn in their forms to do things like this, where we step, we do one technique, and then we throw like 4 or 5 things from one foot position. No, look, this person's moving, you're moving, everyone moves together. If you stay here and they're going like this, it doesn't end well for you. It's important that you start playing with your feet and start doing more footwork. You know, doing things like this is great, but unless you understand how to move on multiple angles while you're doing it, with multiple steps in multiple directions, it doesn't do you any good. And remember, you don't block, then you step. Right? Most people go like this, they try and go, "Hoya," and they try to move. But if they miss, they get killed. The bottom line is your feet should help your form. So as you move, your motion should be connected to your feet. It's not that I do 1 and then 2. So if you want to really excel at martial arts and karate in particular, you need to go back in and add footwork back in, instead of just doing this one stiff move and then trying to do 4 techniques. Number 6, katas. Oof. I have lots of film on katas. You'll see all sorts of tips for that. That's coming. But the bottom line with katas is people take them literally. Right? We go into these long, hard stances. We go into positions we couldn't fight out of if our life depended on it. We stiffen up. We do things that are really physical exercises and often breathing exercises, and we take them literally and we try and teach them as a fight. Oh, no. Why? Look, again, I go into this other stuff, but you got to learn to make your forms more real over time. Those big forms are for beginners to teach structure and build strength, but they have to shrink up over time and actually become more applicable. You actually have to put your hands in positions where they actually could fight and not back like this. You have to put your feet in positions that you could actually fight out of, and not in things like this or like this where you think you're going to fight and you're not. So with your forms, gradual over time, don't do too many of them, don't take them literal. They should supplement you over 20, 30 years. If that's what you do all the time and you think it's going to make you better at karate without the other things that you should be doing, like working with live bodies, you're not. Number 5, grappling. Look, I see a lot of styles of karate where they put on a lot of little big funny suits and they go back and forth and they touch each other. Oh, God. Number 1, people don't punch like that at you. But number 2, a lot of people grab you. And it's not addressed often in karate. It's addressed statically, like we do a lock and we get an escape. And hi-ya, we escape. But, you know, it's not how it works in the real world. You know, people grab and pull and tackle and throw you around. And if you don't work with that stuff, you're going to have a lot of trouble when you face real people. So I'm not saying you need to become a grappler, but what you need to do is you need to work with people who do grapple so you understand how to at least mitigate it. You have to understand how to at least slow them up or space them or give yourself distance where it makes them hard to grab so you can deliver the correct strikes. Because grapplers like to shrink space, and karate tends to be very big, and what happens is when people get in on you, a lot of those techniques don't work because they need the big hip twist and the big shoulder and the big elbow to make it happen. So you got to practice in a tighter space with people giving you grief so that you can learn to shrink it up and move and not get grabbed so easily. Number 4, sport fighting. Karate was never meant as a sport. Never. Karate was a self-defense. Karate is eye gouging, hair ripping, ear pulling, throat hitting, groin kicking. Right? In its basic form. And for some reason, we try to practice that sort of in class, and then we put on these suits and we want to go like this and bounce back and forth and not use any of that work. Look, you do what you do under stress. If you practice just going back and forth really fast like this, you know, without using any of the really mean stuff that you're supposed to be using to do self-defense, it's no longer karate. It's either point fighting or kickboxing or a sad attempt at MMA, which happens all the time. If you're looking to do karate for what karate really is, it's a self-defense. It's not meant to be in a ring. It's not meant to be rolling around with other guys. It's not meant to be rules and point fighting and all these other things that actually detract from the art itself. If you actually understood the forms and saw the really nasty things, the dislocations, the eye gouges, the finger breaks, you know, all the really mean things that you're supposed to be doing that you can't do in a ring, then you're not practicing it. Now, granted, you can't practice that stuff really fast in a ring anyways. I mean, I would hope to God you wouldn't want to go break someone's finger or gouge their eye out. But if you practice under stress, just punching and kicking, when you're under stress, that's what you'll do. And you won't do any of the other of your art that you were supposed to learn in the first place that odds are you weren't taught. Number 3, static self-defense. Oh, another one. So many times what happens is we do self-defenses. We have 2 guys, one here and one here, and the first person attacks like this. And they stop like a foot short, and then the other guy blocks it and then counters. Again, beginners, right? It's okay when you first start, but it's not even remotely realistic. When you're doing self-defense, when you're working back and forth, at first you learn concepts. I don't mind you doing things where like you learn 1 block then hit, then 2 block then hit, and that's fine. But you got to keep in mind the real world, it never is the way you think it's going to be. So the faster you can get away from that and get to free flow work, where you don't know what they're throwing at you, and they're actually committing at you. When I mean committing, I don't mean they're trying to kill you. You don't have to work that way. But they actually have to at least step through and go deep enough to where you have to move. If you're pulling your shots or pulling your shots, you know, it's not teaching you anything. You're learning a bad distance and a false narrative. You have to practice free flow all the time. And that's the only way you can start experimenting with things like, you know, joints and popping things and sweeps and takedowns and necks, elbows, and that's how you learn. You have to do it with bodies all the time, free flow, until you see what comes out. Number 2, one opponent. Again, karate has become a sport in a lot of ways. And what happens is we focus on one person. We go like this, and they go like this, and we go like this, and we don't focus on the rest of the world. The rest of the world doesn't care about your point fighting. You know, I've been in scrapes outside in the real world where I've seen people jump in for no reason. They weren't even involved. They just thought it was fun. They say, hey, look at that, someone's open. You have to have the ability to always look around. You have to have the ability to move in circles and protect yourself. You cannot focus on one opponent and just stare at them like this, like a crazy person, and hope that in a real environment, you're not going to get whacked from behind, or someone's going to hit you, or they have a friend, or you're going to trip over something. You know, when you're in a nice big ring or on the mats and there's no one around and everything's safe and you can go back and forth, that's great. But you have to understand that you're going to be in a real environment. Karate is not meant to be a one-on-one art. Karate is a self-defense art. Karate takes into account weapons and multiple opponents. So if you're not doing that, if you're just doing this back and forth, you're getting so little of the art, you're not really actually getting much of it at all. Number 1, belt system. Ooh. You know, the old days, you earned your belts. You know, with blood, sweat, and tears, black eyes, broken bones. You know, it was ugly. I've been on the other end of some real bad beatings. It's not the point. But they meant something, and there wasn't that many of them. Today, every style has like 50 belts, right? You can get a belt in like 3 seconds. It doesn't take much. Getting a belt's like this, not a problem. And then there's 15 stripes on every one. And then for some reason, we believe that they have value, right? I can't tell you how many seminars I go to or places I go to where people have a black belt and they are cockier than I can't even begin to tell you. And most of them can't fight. A lot of them are kids who have sensei patches for some reason at like 15 that I don't understand, not the point. And they're really arrogant. Like they think like a black belt doesn't mean anything. A black belt means that you're a very good beginner. That's all it means. It doesn't mean you can fight. It doesn't mean you can teach. It doesn't mean anything. And in today's society where they promote you so fast, depending on how much money you're paying them, it really means less. So if you go into karate and you think your belt protects you, you're wrong. If you think it makes you invincible, you're wrong. I have a 5th degree black belt. I could walk out today and someone could hit me with a brick and kill me. And guess what? That black belt wouldn't save me for a second. It doesn't. Look, black belts are great. If you think you need that external confidence, that's okay, I get it. But the reality is your martial arts should come from inside. You don't need that belt to make you good. You just don't. Don't rely on the belt. Rely on yourself. And if you're at a place where people are handing out belts like candy, yeah, you got to be a little suspect there. Again, I don't want you to think I'm bagging on karate. Like, I've done karate for years. And like I said, I've had some really good instructors who I really respect. And, you know, I've learned a lot and I owe them quite a bit. But again, the way this factory martial art thing is going on, where people are just belt producing machines, is not helping karate at all. And on some level, from a combat perspective, it's really hurt it. And the problem is people think they're taking martial arts and they're not. They're taking like gymnastics and aerobics and cheerleading effectively. So again, if you're going to take this, go look around for a legitimate guy. There are legitimate schools. They're so rare, but they are there. You see a strip mall school, avoid it like the plague. If you've been doing this a long time and you're doing the same thing you've been doing for the last 20 years and you haven't improved, your instructor hasn't shown you anything new, and it all looks hokey and fake and garbage, go find someone else. And very worst, if you can't find someplace, go find seminars. There are guys out there that are really good and can teach you really good things. Traditional Asian martial arts can be very, very, very good. Just often they're not taught very good. This is Bill Koenig for Straight Circle Martial Arts. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.